Hey everybody, my name is John Henry Soto,
And my name is George Batista.
and welcome to Counterparts. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome. Boy, I really want to start off first by thanking everybody that tuned in last week. We've been getting some pretty good feedback on our pages, on our Facebook pages, where we just started the page and it's at 250, I believe that's the last number we looked at.
Yep.
And that's pretty good considering a lot of it was organic and just word of mouth and just telling people about what we're doing here. So thank y'all, appreciate y'all, and we're gonna work hard to bring you some positive and some entertaining and humorous, hopefully, content about Star Trek and the world around us. And how are you today, George, or tonight?
I'm doing fantastic, sir, and I'm excited to be here. I hope you all have a great time with us.
Yes. Definitely an interesting weekend I had. How was your weekend, by the way?
My weekend was good.
Yeah.
It was uneventful.
Yeah. Now, well, because you live in the forest.
I live in the boondocks.
Right. So what's gonna happen up there?
Yeah, there's not much going on. Deer and cow and bears and stuff. Those pretty much my neighbors over here. So
yeah, they're the cows. So this weekend for me, I had a really cool weekend, and I was thinking about Star Trek a lot this weekend, and because I was on, some of I'm an actor, and I was on this in this film, and called Sunshine Living was the name of the film, and it was kind of a very sci-fi-ish kind of film, very very interesting, it really did remind me a lot of Star Trek because I can't really give away too much of what it is because it's I don't they don't want me to do that, but there were scenes in it that were very very trippy, like a Star Trek episode,
Mhm.
and so I had to wear this thing that I had to wear, and it just reminded me of some of the costumes of the old series, the original series, and how you can see them today and be like, oh my god, that's so cheesy, the costumes,
Right.
but one of the things that it also reminded me of was that the stories is what always drove the thing for me, you know what I mean? Because even I can still go back and watch an episode of Star Trek and know that the stuff is just like 1966, 65, technology,
Mhm.
special effects, but still the story pulls me in, and
Definitely.
that's the brilliance of it. But yeah, that was my weekend and I had a great time. It was exhausting. I got back Sunday night and it was really really exhausting. But let me just give a shout out to Mary Lawson. How are you,
Hey,
Mary?
Mary, what's up?
Hello, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. So yeah, so that was my weekend. So I was pretty excited about that.
Cool.
Should we tell everyone about the contest?
Yes, I think we should.
Yeah.
It's an
So
exciting contest.
yeah, so we have a contest that we're running for the month of March, and we're gonna be doing it every month. And I think I showed these last week, which is these are two collector's editions, 55th anniversary magazines, Star Trek, obviously. You have Spock on one, Kirk on the other, and the pictures in here are great. These really feel really nice too. It's like nice, it's not like cheap magazine. It's not
Right.
like I have this. It's not us magazine. I don't read that. It's just it just comes to the
Why is
house.
that there? I don't
Because
understand.
it comes to our house. I have no idea
It
what the
comes.
hell's
You
going
have a
on.
subscription to that?
No, it's
Lies.
Pamela's. I don't want to show the address, but it's Pamela's name on it. And I sometimes every once in a while I talk about it on my morning show just
Oh,
to see how disturbing the magazines are. But anyway, it's nothing like that.
oh, okay.
What are you gonna say?
Nothing.
No, it's not mine.
I will stay quiet.
So those are the magazines. And so the contest is basically pretty simple. We kept it simple. George and I picked a date. We have a date in the future. The future means 3 days from now, 4 days from now, 2 weeks from now. It's not going to be more than 2 weeks from now, right? Because I don't want to make it, but it's between now and 2 weeks from now, from today's date. And we're having we picked a date and we picked a time. So let's give you an example. Let's just say the contest is tomorrow, right? And we picked tomorrow, let's just say, right? But I guarantee you that we did not pick tomorrow, just in case anybody's out there. But let's just say, yeah, erase that.
Forget that one.
We didn't pick tomorrow, but let's just say tomorrow, which is March 10th, 4:13 p.m. That's what we would write down. Now, in order to enter the contest, you'd go to our Facebook page, this is actually airing on our Facebook page right now. So, hello. Make a comment from now to 2 weeks on that page. The comment that's the closest to the date that we picked wins. How's that explanation? That's pretty good, right?
Not bad.
Right? That makes sense, right? We wanted to do something that was a little challenging, but also get people to come to our page. And we have a lot of cool stuff coming on our page, by the way. So if you're interested in Star Trek, there's also a lot of funny things that we post on there as well. As well as, during the week, we're still constantly adding stuff there. So it's someplace that you can come to be entertained as well. So come to the page, check it out, make a comment on our page on this video. It can be this video, it can be one of our posts. The person that makes the last comment that's the closest to the date and the time that we picked. Now the date and the time. So it's not just the date, it's also the time. You'll win the magazines.
What are you trying to say, John?
Say it again.
What are you trying to say?
I have a feeling I'm gonna be doing that a lot in the next at least next few days. And then that's for this month, and then next month we're gonna be doing these wonderful you can check out these
that is cool.
pins.
I love that. And
this is green, so you could see the green screen through it, but yeah, it's green, so the green screen goes through it. But this is from a mock time, which is an episode. And this is another episode called Mirror Mirror, which is actually one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
Mirror Mirror. I like Mirror Mirror, and Enemy Within. I also like. Those are like my two favorite. All right, so that's the contest. If anybody has any questions, if you're confused about what the hell I just said, you can send us a message to the Counterparts page on Facebook and be like, "What the hell you're talking about? How are you going on?" And then I'll explain it again. I'm gonna get a drink.
You see my cup, by the way?
Let me see that.
So those, by the way, those of you who are not on YouTube or Facebook and just are listening to this, I have a Star Trek cup, which was given to me by my mother. Okay, it was sent to me by my mother. Actually, Mom. You gotta love Mom.
Yeah.
And it's the crew standing on the transporter. Now, what's cool about this cup is that when you pour hot water on it, the crew on the transporter disappears and appear on the other side of the cup on a planet. I mean, come on. This is the coolest.
Too cool. What was the genius Star Trek guy that was sitting around?
Genius invented this, but
hey, I got it.
Yeah. So I have no idea where she got it, but my mother has nothing else to do all day but to look at weird websites and HSN and all these places. But anyway, this, thanks to Mom, this was
awesome. That is cool. I would definitely want to look up for those. If obviously you're on the podcast and you can't see the cup, or you can't see the magazines, you can't see the pins, then what you want to do is on Tuesdays, or right now, or not Tuesday, on Tuesdays at 8 p.m., just come on over to our Facebook page. You can also visit us at counterpartspodcast.com. And it'll take you directly to us, and then you can visually see what the hell we're talking about. But thank you so much for listening. Anyway, all right, so we're gonna dive into our episode today. I think this is an interesting episode because you mentioned this is the first episode that Captain Kirk and Spock were filmed together, right? But it wasn't the first episode that aired.
Correct.
Right. And the first episode that we had the cage. We didn't have James T. Kirk.
Right.
It had Spock and it had Pike, right?
Right.
Then the second episode that was filmed was this one that we're going to talk about today.
Right.
The third one, was the third one the one that
I don't know if, well, okay.
Man Trap?
So the way it aired was, yeah, the Man Trap was the one that actually aired, and then I think a couple of other episodes aired before this one. So I think this
Wow.
was actually like the fifth or the sixth, if I remember correctly. I could be off slightly, but
Yeah.
it was something like that. But which
So,
is interesting, and I'm not exactly sure why that is. And if anybody knows, you can chime in.
yeah.
But that's the way it was. But
Yeah.
yeah, Man Trap was done, and then this one was aired later. But this was the first one that Kirk and Spock are actually taped together. So
Right.
yeah,
And it was interesting because it's one of those moments that I always think about that, like when was the first time that they were like on, like how was that like? Did they get
right,
along? It was like, because you can see that Spock's character, although he did mention about the emotion, aggravation or frustration or whatever emotion he was talking about, he had that kind of comment because, yes, human emotion,
right,
but he had a lot more emotion himself,
exactly.
in these earlier episodes, and until I think it developed into like what we know now as Spock. So the moment I want to actually show the moment. So this is the moment that uh, William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy as Captain James T. Kirk.
Tiberius.
Tiberius. And Leonard Nimoy, Spock, were actually on camera together. This is like a very important moment. Now, for me, I think about how they've impacted so many millions and millions of lives throughout the years and are still doing it today. I mean, here we are now still continuing the conversation about their impact. But what were your thoughts about their chemistry in those early episodes?
Well, it was interesting because when you first see that, I mean, the chemistry is evident right from the
Right
start.
from the start, right?
Amazing.
Isn't
And
that weird?
I watched it, a few days ago, and literally the first scene, the chemistry was right there. They're joking, they're laughing. I mean, literally, it looked like they were together 20 years,
It's true. It's
and
true.
they're just, they're just like nothing. It was like, it's
Yeah.
just two buddies hanging out, playing chess or whatever.
Yeah.
And you compare that to, we can go back to the Cage and look at Pike. Pike was good, but Pike was very serious. He was very,
Right.
like everything was serious and everything was an issue.
Right.
And him and Spock never had that there.
No, and I think it didn't give us the illusion, right, that they had been flying through space for a long period of time.
Right,
That
exactly.
they've been together for a long period of time.
Right.
When Kirk and Spock turned, when he says something, it's your move, and then Kirk kind of laughs. He's like, "You play a very
Irritating game of chess.
irritating game of chess, Mr. Spock," and he laughs, and that was it. That was
Yeah.
that's the guys. Those are the characters,
It was there. It was done. I mean, it is amazing that, and you think about it, you have, it's only, and only there because obviously McCoy wasn't in this episode, but it was 2/3 of that chemistry was already built right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then as they go through the episode, you see this interplay between them, right? And Kirk being the impulsive one, and again, you had Kirk. Kirk is my guy. I love Kirk. I'm a Kirk fan. He's my favorite captain, right? But Kirk is the impulsive one, and Spock is the logical one, trying to kind of pull him back from doing crazy things. But Kirk is the cowboy,
Right.
But
And it's amazing because it created such a important element to all the other captains.
yes,
All the other captains had to sort of kind of emulate that in a sense, as just being, maybe Picard was probably the most laid back guy, but then he had number one that was sort of like a little bit more of a renegade,
right, exactly.
But all the captains still were very, very strong willed and hard headed and kind of renegades, and it started because of Captain Kirk and that whole chemistry. And it also seemed to me that William Shatner already had it. Like, he sat down with the idea that this is how this guy is going to be forever.
Right.
Like, there was no development other than what you saw, and he developed, I don't want to say he developed. He did develop because he got older. He had more experiences. He he went in and out of love. But there, when he sat down, it was the guy,
Yeah.
and even Kurt, even Spock wasn't fully there yet.
Right. Exactly.
But William Shatner was there.
He was there. Yes.
He was there. He was the guy that we just love to follow and want to be in his footsteps and stuff. So that was a very important moment for me in the series. Now the episode itself was also really, really good.
Yeah, I agree.
Let me just say hello, Matt Briggs.
Matt
Thank you very much.
What's up, Matt?
Appreciate you for being on. Thank you. The episode itself was really good, and it really had a lot to do with energy.
Right.
Like it had to do. I mean, it was an ESP kind of thing, also, but there was we take for granted sometimes, like our abilities to see into the future and to have just more abilities. And I think this episode kind of made it seem like, what would we do if we suddenly had that?
Yes.
Where you can then really almost try to be almost godlike, and you thought could we handle that?
Exactly.
And obviously he could not, but
yeah, definitely not.
But I just thought that it was a great episode, and it really explored that really well.
Well, it explores that saying, right? And I think it was actually said in there, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Right. That whole thing where he was, little by little, his powers were showing more and more, and he was getting stronger and stronger and stronger. What can I do next, and all this?
Yeah.
Very interesting. But it's an interesting dynamic, because also the chemistry of Gary before he became the god, or that being, or whatever he was interesting, because he also had a good chemistry even with Kirk and Spock. Right there in the elevator, they're hanging out, they're joking again, like, and he had supposedly known Kirk for many years.
Yeah, they went to school together.
It was an interesting change, how he was just that fun-loving guy, and all of a sudden he completely changes into this monster at some point.
There were some telling moments in there, though, because when he was laying in the bed, when he had the eyes glowing, and Kirk went to go see him, he did mention some things. He goes, "Oh, well, everybody said watch out for Captain Kirk, with the holding the books and running through the hallway."
Legs,
He wanted everyone out, everyone out of his way. And then he was like saying, he almost insinuating that you wanted me out.
Right.
Now I feel like I'm becoming something much bigger.
Exactly.
And then when Kirk is walking away, he gives him that line, right? First he says, it's not very friendly of you,
Yeah.
And then he says, "Didn't I tell you?" And his voice kind of like
the echo.
Kirk like turns around like, what the hell? You got a bullhorn. So there was already something building in him before he got the power.
Right.
The power just made him realize that he was gonna really just do everybody in, because he felt that everyone was becoming almost simple.
Exactly.
Useless to him,
Right.
And that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Brian,
what's up, Brian?
Drum intro.
That's what I was asking, because you figure, the guitar player makes this intro, and he makes it whatever he wants. He forgets that there's a drummer on the other side of this, right? I mean, come on. I'm just saying. Nobody cares. I'm the red shirt.
He's the red shirt.
I'm the red shirt.
You're the red shirt.
I should just be, hi, I'm red shirt.
We should actually record something for the opening and actually have it be us actually doing something. This way you can be on.
That's a good idea.
You know what I mean? No,
hey guys, if you what do you think about that? Guys, chime in and let us know if you think that's a good idea.
George and I have played in a few bands together. One successful band where we did a lot of stuff and recorded records. We played all over the place, and he was the first drummer I ever played with, and I'm probably the first guitar player he's ever played with. I'm assuming, right? And we kind of like grew up playing. So I would love to put something together, and just I could do it here or send you clips. You put some stuff to it. You still have your electronic kit, right?
Yep. That's a great idea. We just came up with a cool idea right on the spot. Look at that.
And Brian says he'll He'll direct it. He's a director, a great director.
Nice.
He's a great director. Actually, he's got some cool
That's
stuff. We'll definitely.
Just a couple of notes, just kind of piggybacking on this whole chemistry thing. So, what was interesting, again, with the chemistry part of them too, right? You see that fantastic chemistry, and you know, it reminds me of. I mean, actually going into music, it reminds me of when we got together with Dave and Eddie, which were members of Glass of No later on. When we first got into the studio with these guys, we played and immediately chemistry. It was right?
So yeah.
And you know, it has that vibe, you know, that same vibe. Now, the only time where, you know, in Star Trek, to me, in my opinion, where that chemistry actually didn't work, and there was only one time, in my opinion, where it didn't work: Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
I mean, yeah.
There was.
Now we will hold you to it. No teasing. Right, we have to do it now. All right.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna get together. We'll do it, definitely. So Star Trek Motion Picture.
Yeah.
It was, you know, and again, we'll talk about that more when we get into the movies and stuff like that. But that chemistry wasn't there to me. And I know there was writing in that. There was, you know, you would know better than I do, but
I think what happened was that, and we're not going to go into it too heavily, but I will say that, you know, because of the Space Odyssey film that was so massive, with much slower pace, they kind of wanted to take that same approach because they thought that was going to be the thing,
right?
And you know, I think they just really missed the point of what it was. You know, I think what they needed to do was go back and watch the series. They probably didn't, or not everyone did.
Yeah, that's true.
But they really made up for it after that. I'll tell you that.
Oh, forget about it. Absolutely.
I can't wait to start talking about the films. And that's just so everyone knows what we're going to be talking about here. We're gonna cover some of the episodes that are our favorites of the original series, and then we're gonna cover the movies. Right. Then we're gonna cover Next Generation, Deep Space Nine. We'll even cover the Enterprise.
Yes, we'll even do Enterprise.
We'll even Enterprise.
We'll do all of it.
Yeah, and what's the other one that we were?
You have this. Do you have Discovery?
Yeah, Discovery. What was the one that Janeway? What was Janeway?
Oh, Voyager.
Voyager. Yeah, Voyager.
Voyager was.
We'll definitely cover all those and maybe episodes within. I also want to do a thing about villains.
Yes, we're going to do a thing on captains. We're going to do a thing on villains. We'll, you know,
because I think that what Star Trek, like this episode, for instance, you know, it had they weren't really villains. They were unfortunate people that got zapped.
Right. Yeah.
And
right, electrical storm in space.
Yeah, you know, when that happens, you know, it's like, geez,
hey, when that happens.
Yeah, it sucks. You know, it hurts. But so they weren't really villains. They're not going to come back and stuff. But when you have a really good villain like a Khan or somebody like that you really, you know, we want to pay tribute to those villains that were amazing. So let's just get back to this episode again. And so some of the actors that were, and I have them up here because I can never remember their names. Gary Lockwood and Sally Kellerman. Now Sally Kellerman was also in MASH. She was the first Hot Lips of MASH, and then she left the show, and Loretta Swit, I think it was. Did I say?
Swit. Yep.
Loretta Swit came in and took over. And Gary Lockwood was a character actor who's been in a ton of things, a lot of TV, a lot of film work and stuff. That was another thing that they've really managed to keep that integrity of the period, whatever period that Star Trek is. They get the best actors.
Best actors, yes.
Even on the series, you know, on the TV shows and stuff, they really got top of the line quality actors. You know,
absolutely.
Which I think in the 80s that kind of went away.
Yeah.
Sitcoms, and again, I love some of the sitcoms in the 80s. You know, I was a teenager there, and it was a lot of interesting stuff going on. But when you look at some of the more serious talk shows, or the most serious TV shows like cop shows and stuff, the actors didn't really bring in, like if you look at Starsky and Hutch or something,
right?
You know, or you look at that was like 70s, right? But let's go to the 80s and you look at Hunter.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say Hunter. Yeah.
Hunter. Sometimes they didn't really bring in the best and this is a criticism that I probably shouldn't make, but I just didn't feel that they were as strong as
Right.
the actors that were really out there. They were stronger actors. Now, part of the reason for that was because television was sort of thought of as not good. If you were a movie actor, you're not going to go to television.
Right, exactly. It was
Movie.
considered below you. It was
It
yeah,
was considered
right.
below you, and that happened through the 80s.
Yes.
Somewhere around the 90s when HBO started, becoming more popular, and then cable television,
Mhm.
and then of course Netflix, and now all the shows. Now the best stuff is on television.
Yeah,
Some of the best shows.
Yep.
So they're able to get those. But I love the fact that Star Trek in 1966, competing against all these great shows, were still bringing in, and that's a tribute to Gene Roddenberry and his commitment to the show and wanting it to bring the best in.
Yes.
So that was definitely an important thing for me to point out.
Absolutely.
On that. So why don't we talk a little bit about the two other characters that were in that episode that we only saw briefly about for that much, but later on became huge parts of the franchise, which was of course Scotty, who was the man, and Sulu. George, right? He was in that. Oh yeah, they were. Yeah,
Sulu, Scotty and Sulu were there.
They were there. They didn't have hardly any.
No, they were like Scotty was there, and he was part of the engineering department, but he wasn't the chief engineer.
Right.
And Sulu was completely something separate. He was like with the botany department or something. I mean, it was something completely different.
He made ice cream floats in the
yeah, he was the ice cream man or something. I don't know what he was doing, but yeah, it introduced them there. But again, now you're getting into this diversity that Gene was putting together, right? Again, considering the time and considering what he's putting together, he and George Takei actually talked about, when he was cast and when he was put there. Now, here's a little tidbit on this, right? When Gene Roddenberry approached George Takei to be in Star Trek, he talked, he liked him. He talked about his character, and but he didn't have a name for him. So he says, "Where can we get your name? What kind of name?" So he's thinking. George Takei was saying that different names are from different regions. So, for example, a certain name would be from Japan, and a certain name would be from China, a certain name would be from whatever. But he didn't want to do that. He wanted a name that encompassed everything. And this is, again, the type of person that he was. So he chose. There is a sea called the Sulu Sea in Asia, right? I think it's maybe Southeast Asia, but actually a lot of those countries border this sea. And George Takei told him, "Well, you have the Sulu Sea," and he said, "That's perfect because it actually borders everything, so it encompasses everything. So we're going to call you Mr. Sulu," and that's how Mr. Sulu was born.
Wow, that's interesting. So yeah, I mean, Gene Roddenberry definitely had the idea that, who he reminds me of, but kind of not even, I guess, in a little bit, but Elon Musk. If you listen to his interviews, about what he sees in the future, it's kind of like what Gene would see in the future.
Right? Yes.
With television, Elon is obviously doing it through space and through technology and stuff, but really, it's not. The vision is the same. Gene Roddenberry knew that people were going to go to the stars. Knew that this was going to happen. And Elon is thinking the same way. So he was definitely ahead of his time as far as like bringing in people that at the time were not really like when later on we go into Uhura when she comes into the show. You had I do want to talk about one thing about the women for a second. The women. But I it's interesting because you start looking at Star Trek as if you look at it like a sociological kind of element right now, like for women and the way the world is today. And then you look at it in 1966 and you look at how some of the comments that were made in that episode. You know, and not just that episode, but even in the cage, right, where Pike is like, I'm not used to having women on the bridge,
Right.
and you start thinking that even though Gene Roddenberry had this vision and this thing, there was still a little bit behind
Mhm.
in that thinking, because if you're in the 23rd century, you would think that that would not even be an issue anymore,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Right.
So there was that element of growth that still needed to happen, that I
Correct.
think he understood,
Yes.
and when he as he continued to develop, and he brought in Uhura, and I think he realized, and you noticed that as the series went on, that went less and less. Like Kirk stopped, he would, Kirk was very flirtatious, you know what I
Yes.
mean? A new ensign would be on the bridge or something, and this high, he's like, "Where you from? Stand over here next to me." And he's like, and the skirts were like so short, and he's like, really just flirtatious, even when the doctor in this episode, Dr. Elizabeth, what was her name? Denner. When
Yeah.
when she came in, she says, I'm a psychiatrist. I'm here to evaluate the staff to see what what space. And then he looks at them, and he looks at her, and he goes,
Right.
you notice that he looks her up and down,
Yes. Yes.
and I just thought, I don't know if that was William Shatner deciding to take that on,
Could be.
that role, or was it something that says the director saying, Kurt, or James, look at her up and down, like you're checking her out, and who knows? I mean, I don't know, but I mean, the future then showed that Captain Kirk liked the ladies, and it didn't matter what color they were either.
They could have been, they were green or whatever it was. But let me ask you a question. Do you think that maybe part of the, and I'm just throwing it out there, maybe the part of the reason why Gene had it that way, or did that where it wasn't fully embraced at that point, maybe do you think that if he would have made it more of an issue at that time, maybe if we would have put more women at that time, or maybe that the networks would have had more of a problem with it?
I think you're right. I think that's probably what was the reason. I don't think it had to do with Gene. I think it had to do with the network. Remember the shows that are competing against Star Trek. Which we'll go over in a little bit. The shows that were on competing. They needed to have as much firepower as they possibly could. And Star Trek was not well received.
Right.
It just was not. So let's get some girls in there with some short skirts. I mean, they had no idea what was the empire that was going to be created, the franchise. You know what I mean? They had no idea. So at the time, I'm sure that was part of the issue. It was sort of like, we have to have something in there that's going to give us a little bit more leverage, get people to watch. But I think you're right. I think that was a sign of the times, and also, when you look into the future, you see that pretty much when Uhura came in. See, the thing is, they shouldn't have mentioned it. Like when Pike said, "I'm not used to women," that line didn't have to be there. It wouldn't have changed anything.
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't have changed one thing from. I can't imagine the series moving forward changing completely.
Exactly.
But it was a line that I felt that was not needed in that particular episode. And then the what's her name, she was playing, she said, "Oh, well, you're different," when he says to her. And that was sort of like an insult to her, saying, like, if you're on the bridge and you're not a woman, you're not considered. You know what I mean? So so it should have been. And again, I don't want to get into this whole PC world that we're living in. I don't really give a crap about that. I'm not censoring. I'm not canceling anybody. But my point is that if you just don't address it, it's either. And when Uhura came in, they didn't address it.
Right. It was just, she was just there. She was there.
Communication.
Normal.
That's it. He's in charge of communications. That's it. You know what I mean? And that's what I liked about it. And then from that moment on, it was never an issue with anything.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
Of course, you have Voyager, and you have Janeway, really the first female captain leading the show. And I thought that was really a good move.
I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was fantastic for her.
Janeway was really good. I mean,
she was amazing.
Was really great. I mean, I don't know how it's looked upon by other Trek lovers, but I thought that that series was great.
That's one of my, I mean, and again, we'll do more on the series. I mean, I probably the biggest one for me is Next Generation, but I think after Next Generation, Voyager is probably my favorite after that.
Wow. Cool.
I just think, I thought it was well written. I thought the characters were great. Janeway was fantastic.
Yeah, that's the thing about these actors they bring on these shows.
We'll talk a little bit because she does an interview about what she went through in those first couple of years.
Oh man.
It was some crazy stuff that she had to deal with during those years, but besides all that, she was just really, really good.
Yeah. So. People don't realize that they enter a world that people are out there looking like this, they're making sure that the integrity is kept in. And that's what I like about Star Trek. And I feel Star Wars, a lot of people try to compare the two. They're two completely different universes, no pun intended, but they are completely different in the sense that Star Wars really had good and evil, and that was the basic element of it,
Yeah, they had stories, but the stories weren't as deep. They were, and again, I like Star Wars, but
yeah, so do I.
But they didn't have, and like you said it last week. You said that they didn't have all the time that Star Trek had, right? These guys had to do it in 2 hours, and
I did talk about this.
Yeah,
myself. And then the next week I'll be here again. So Star Wars. John, you stop with the Star Wars.
But yeah, but I agree. I agree that Star Trek goes way deeper and it attacks issues. And Gene was again attacking social issues and all different types of issues. I mean, if you look at Star Trek from its totality, from beginning to end, it really deals with every issue you could possibly think of.
Yeah, absolutely. So Star Trek finally got the women's uniform right with Discovery. Michael rock those sneakers, I guess you couldn't put. The clothing and the attitudes have changed over the years.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're definitely correct on that. Yeah, they actually were. I mean, there is a sort of coolness to being, with the Federation too. I mean, you want to look. It's sort of like, I look at it like Top Gun,
right?
These guys are freaking studs. They're dressed amazing. The girls look hot. They got amazing color. You know what I mean? But it's
women love them.
Yeah, it's sort of like the military. I mean,
yeah, it is right.
It's military, and you want to be, and then you're on television. They have good looking people on the shows, and so there is a sense of like, let's sell this. And let's get some good looking people dressed in really hot looking clothes. Let's make them look cool. I think the Next Generation probably had the most plain, almost simple.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I mean, obviously the original series just had the basic, but they could have gone a lot more, but they kept it kind of like
simple
out, and I thought that was really cool. And that just kind of carried on. And talking about the women, one of the Nerys,
Kira,
Deep Space Nine, Kira. Oh, I love her. I just wanted to say that. Okay.
So she's your favorite female character?
She's my favorite female character of the whole Star Trek. I just thought that she was so well-rounded. She developed really well. You see the pain and struggle that she went through. She's a great actress.
Yes.
And I just really, she was badass.
She was.
She would not back down, from people. And I just thought she was really, really just great. I mean, you can look at Uhura and Janeway, obviously, but for me, I just thought in the circumstances that she was in, she was great. Now she wasn't even Federation, I mean, she wasn't, she was just a character that was there, but I just thought that she was really, really cool.
I agree.
Really, really cool. Very, very strong character. So what do we got on this episode? What else? This was shot in this was 1966, I believe, right?
66.
So I'm going to quickly just go over while we're going to do a trivia. So everyone out there, hang tight. We still got some more love here. So, what was what do you think was the number one song 1966?
Well, I know it wasn't Woolly Woolly.
No, it wasn't Woolly Woolly. And you know,
Number-
now I have somebody who keeps messaging me Woolly Woolly.
Wo-
Woolly Woolly. It's Woolly.
um, okay, I mean, obviously, I don't know what the number one song is, but I'm going to guess an artist. I'll say it was a Beatles song.
Nope.
No.
It was California Dreaming by the Mamas and the Papas.
Papas. Look at that.
Yeah. And on there had 96 Tears, what by the question, it's like a question mark, and Mr. Rains. I don't know who they are. Jimmy Ruffin had a number 3 hit with What Becomes of the Broken Hearted.
Oh, I know that song.
Yeah.
That's a good
The
song.
Last Train to Clarkville, the Monkees.
Monkeys.
Very popular song. The Four Tops, Reaching Out, I'll Be There. Reach Out, I'll Be There. I don't know which one is that one. Nancy Sinatra had a hit. These boots are made for walking. The Association with Cherish. I'm just gonna do the top 10. So I only
Right.
do the top 10. And Frank Sinatra, Strangers in the Night. How about that? Nancy and Frank.
Nancy and Frank. Oh, very interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was number 6 and he was number 8 with Strangers in the Night.
I wonder if that was at the height of when he was doing that show, his show,
Well, yeah, 66.
right?
Yeah, he was already really well. I mean, he was
I mean, he
super
was,
famous already.
right.
He was already becoming at 66. He was becoming like the chairman of the board.
Oh, yes.
Like
yeah.
in the 40s and the 50s, he was like Frankie, you know. But so the Kicks, Paul Revere, the song called Kicks, Paul
Okay.
Revere and the Raiders, and then the Ballad of the Green Beret.
Ah,
That was Sergeant Barry Sadler. Cool. So that was
interesting.
that. And same shows were number 1.
Bonanza.
Bonanza number 1. Gomer Pyle, The Lucy Show. This was like from, because it was 1965 to 66. This will
Right.
probably change in the next episode, whatever year, whatever episode we're doing next, which we don't know yet. But yeah, so that's what was up. It was a California Dreamin' by
California Dreaming.
Mamas and the Papas.
Mamas and the Bubbles.
Yeah. So what trivia?
So we're gonna do trivia now.
Let's do trivia.
All right, let's do trivia. Okay, so
oops, sorry. Hold on.
what was the combination of Captain Kirk's safe? If you know that one. No, I'm kidding. All right, so trivia question for today is, John, do you know who Mark Leonard is?
Mark Leonard. No, I do not.
Okay. Mark Leonard is the actor who played Spock's father, Sarek,
Oh,
in Star Trek.
okay.
Not only the original series, but he played it in many of the movies, and he was even in Next Generation.
Yeah,
Playing
great too.
brilliant. Yeah, I thought he was brilliant in that role.
Always.
Okay. Very, very good actor. So Mark Leonard not only played Spock's father in Star Trek, but he played 2 other characters in Star Trek.
Oh.
What were those characters? 2 other characters.
Mm.
So 2 completely separate characters. So again, what were they? And let's see if Mary Lawson chimes in on this one. But yeah, so that's the trivia question, and we'll answer that towards the end. Now, just to give you a little info on Mark Leonard, he was also in shows. He was a very good actor. Shows he did was Mission Impossible. He was in Hawaii Five-0, Planet of the Apes, The Incredible Hulk, and Gunsmoke.
Wow, all those shows that were.
The shows that he was in. Yeah, he I think he passed away around 96. I think it was at 72 years old. But very good actor. So yes.
Really, I thought he was. I thought he lived longer than that. I thought he was in some of the later. I guess no. I guess not. I guess
No, because he was in Next Generation. He was already older there.
Sure.
But yeah,
72 is not really these days. 72 is not really as old as
72 people are starting.
Yeah, I know it's true. I just saw a thing with William Shatner. He's going to be
He's gonna be 90. Unbelievable, right? And he not only looks good, but he's like all there, right?
Very alert. Very alert. Yeah, he still does a show, right? He's got
He
a show
does.
that he
He
does.
does a show. I know he does a show called The Unexplained. Have you seen
Yeah,
that?
explained, and he
It
sits
was
up
a
there and he's like,
really, really cool show.
"It's that they do. I don't know." And, and that's what he does. He sits there and he does that. It's pretty impressive, dude.
Um,
90
and,
years old.
and just another thing on this day, what was going on in Star Trek and Star Trek history. March 9th, I think it was, 1966 or 67. Actually, it was 67. The Star Trek renewed for the second season. It was
Oh,
on March 9th. It was renewed for the second season. So,
wow.
and keep in mind that, all this time, this is when Vietnam War was going on.
That's right.
Right. And they did talk a little bit about that. And by the way, that's another thing. Gene Roddenberry did mention stuff like that in some of the scripts. There was actually one episode in 1968 called The Private Little War, where they went to a planet where there was two tribes and the Klingons were actually arming one of the tribes against the other. And
Right.
Kirk was trying to balance the power. And in one of the scenes, he actually talks about with McCoy, Kirk mentions, he says, "Do you remember the brush wars that they used to happen back in the 20th century in the Asian continent?" And they were talking. So Gene actually was even talking about current events within, those episodes.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
Definitely was concerned with what was going on, especially with trying to bring it into the show, but not necessarily just say it,
Right.
Yeah. So another actor.
Yes, correct. His role, Sarek's role, was reprised by another actor in Discovery. Absolutely.
So I would like to. What do you think of Captain Kirk from the new movies? What's his name? Chris
Pine.
Pine.
I think I like him.
Yeah.
I think I think he does a good job. I think what I like the way they developed his character from the beginning was they did it correctly, in my opinion, where they made him more Kirk as he went along.
Right.
Like you could see his growth.
Yeah.
Like even when he first, towards the end of I think it's the first movie where he actually takes command, and he walks into he even walks in like him, and he's like, "Bones," and he's becoming Kirk, and then they made him that cowboyish type of feel. But I thought Chris Pine did a great job in that role. I mean, just in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I thought it was really good. We don't really talk about him much because we talk about the 5 captains and we don't really include him as much, or at least I don't anyway.
Right.
But he definitely deserves to be included in that bunch, especially now. I think he's proven himself.
Yes.
Worthy in my opinion. But yeah, I think I definitely like that. Cool. All right, so we are going to give the answer of our trivia question now. We're going to be approaching almost 50 minutes here, and we can still talk a little bit more about this episode.
Yes, absolutely.
One of the Spock, I've heard Spock in interviews talk about how him and Gene would have conversations about this whole, about Spock's and his demeanor and and I think I from what I remember, Gene wanted a little bit more Spock. He didn't want to take away all his emotion.
Right.
I think he wanted to have and I think Spock was like going the other way with it, saying like, I think if he's a Vulcan, no emotion, and really go to the extreme. And it really, a lot of things in Spock that you can see developing in this episode really were because of Leonard Nimoy.
Yes, he actually developed even a lot of the Vulcan sign, the neck pinch, all those things were developed by Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah,
because he was. That's the one thing I like about it. He was given creative license to. They asked him, "Hey, why don't you come up with something?" And he came up with the Vulcan sign because of his Jewish heritage,
right?
Which is actually, it does mean something in that Jewish heritage. But all these little things that he came up with, actually, he talked about it where he said that there was one scene where there's something going on that's crazy, and the crew was looking. They're all looking at the screen, and they're all going crazy and running around and screaming or whatever. And Spock turns around, and the director told him, we don't want you to be like them. I don't want you to scream and make a big deal out of it, but I want you to
Women.
the women. I want you to be logical. I want you to be, I want you to say something because you're a scientist, and I want you to act like a scientist. So during the scene, and they told him, just come up with something. Right. So he turns around, and what does he say? Fascinating. And that's where fascinating was born. Wow. Just out of that little clip right there where they told him, just, come out with something. So he really did come up with some brilliant things in that character.
Yeah, and it really, again, we talk a lot about Gene Roddenberry and his genius, but it really was also the fact that he was open to allowing an actor that was at the time fairly unknown. Right. I mean, they all were kind of unknown, really, when you think about it. You can do that back in the days, right? Get people that were in stuff.
Yeah.
But they're not really known, and let him kind of have some creative license and let him kind of go, and then listen to it and then adapt it as this is part of the show now.
Absolutely.
And that to me is like really shows his ability to, it just shows how great he is, how great he was.
It was. And he talked about simplicity. He talked about actually because one of his heroes was Harry Belafonte. And he went to see Harry Belafonte in I don't know if it was a play or just he was singing. And he said that when Harry Belafonte came out on stage, it was just him and the light on him. And that was it, right? And he sang just 2 or 3 songs sitting in the same spot. And then, like, by the 3rd song, Harry Belafonte lifts I guess he did a gesture with his hand, and the crowd went completely berserk, brought the house down. And he just sat there saying, look at the power of that simple gesture.
Yeah.
Just doing that, how simple it was, but it was completely powerful. And that gave him a lot of ideas that he brought to the Spock character.
Wow, that's awesome. And yeah, you talk about simplicity, and you can go back in history. Like, what's happening today in music is really just a travesty as far as I'm concerned. But and I'm talking about, there are a lot of great artists out there, obviously, but I'm talking about certain specific things that I'm seeing. The ability to control an audience with your talent, is very rare that you can find that. I mean, there's Alicia Keys that I think she's incredible.
Right.
There are people like John Legend. There's those kind of artists that can sit at a piano and the whole place is theirs. Harry Connick Jr., those kind of people. But Sinatra, I think
Sinatra was the king. He would come out with a microphone and a cigarette and stand there,
and you just stand there, and the whole place would just go captivated.
Yes.
There was no flare, there was no lasers, no smoke. It was just that, and I think Gene took Star Trek and he sort of made that concept. He took a simple concept, spaceship guys flying through space, exploring, very basic, right? He took the characters and then he incorporated good stories, good morality, ethics. How high ethics is in Star Trek, the ethic, their struggles that they go through trying to be ethical. Sometimes it's difficult to try to stay ethical and try to save your ship. Sometimes you got to do things you don't want to do, and I thought that was really a brilliant part. So that story that you just said really is perfect, because that's exactly what he did. That Harry Belafonte's simple gesture, and that simplicity of it, and incorporated it into a show.
Yeah, and he also, I mean, even this, some of the concepts, like even Kirk, where he looks at Kirk is kind of like almost like a one-dimensional guy. You kind of know what he's going to do. Look at his leadership, right? At the end of this episode, towards the end of this episode, where he's knocked out, right? And Gary, and he takes Sally Kellerman, and they're gone. He gets up and he says, he tells the doctor, "Don't wake Spock up. I'm going to go look for them." And he takes the gun and he goes by himself, right? This is, Gene Roddenberry is saying, this is your leader right here. This is the guy he's going to get his hands dirty. He's going to go out and take care of that situation. And he's going to make sure his crew is safe, even if he has to sacrifice himself to do it. And Kirk does it, goes out there, and he has to take care of that. And Kirk has always been that way, right? the whole time, you know?
The whole time. He's been this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Now I was exactly showing Kirk in the middle of the battle with Gary, where his shirt is ripped and he's all bloody and stuff like that. But you know,
and that's again the integrity part of it, you know,
yes,
of element that's put into Star Trek. You know, that's one of the things that Pamela, my wife and I, when we watched the whole, because we literally sat down and watched every episode together. You
right.
know, actually, I'd come home one day and she was watching when I was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "How are you gonna watch this without me?" I was out.
How dare you?
Oh yeah, I couldn't wait, but it really happened a few times. But you know, when we sat there and we would talk about how the integrity of these characters struggled, you know, they struggled with it, you know, but it was it was so real.
Exactly.
It was so real, and one of the things that I really love about Captain Kirk is that yes, he is the renegade. He is, but he's the first one to get in front of a bullet for
Exactly.
anybody, any of his crew,
Exactly.
except if you had a red shirt on, because he knew they were gone when they were.
Poor red shirt guys, man. I tell you.
What a joke. We should get those red shirts and wear them on the show. But yeah, he would definitely just take a bullet for any of these guys, you know.
He would absolutely. I mean, you can even go all the way to Star Trek 3, Star Trek Spock, right? His crew risks their lives and their careers to go with him to go look for Spock, not knowing what's going to happen. Yeah. But they're like, no, you could see they'll follow you anywhere.
Yeah.
And if you look at a leader, you look at an amazing leader in that realm, you're going to say, I can follow this person anywhere because I know this person they got my back, you know. And
you also don't care if you die.
Exactly.
You're dying for somebody that you truly 100% believe.
Absolutely.
That what they're doing is right.
Absolutely.
You know? And when they went to get Spock, I gotta watch those movies again because those things are just so good. And I don't watch them. You know, I almost on purpose I don't watch them a lot.
Right.
So when I go back to them, I'm enjoying them again.
Fresh and new, yeah.
I don't watch it every day. You know, I mean, stream them every day now, but I don't. So, but I love the. I mean, I cried at the end of Wrath of Khan.
Oh, yeah. My wife hates the end of that one because every time Spock sometimes she gets up and walks out of the room because she just doesn't want to deal with it.
It's too brutal. It's too brutal. I still to this day when he gets up and he puts.
Yes, when he fixes himself.
What?
That right there was completely powerful.
It was
little thing
because he still wants to keep his integrity. He still wants to keep his dignity.
Exactly.
He
fixes himself and walks over. He's blind. He's completely blind, right?
He knows he's not going to survive, but he still wants to present himself because his captain is there. And and that just like anyway, that's a whole other. We're gonna definitely talk about that.
We're definitely gonna get into that one.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that one. But yeah, so this first episode really launched our heroes to us with almost fully developed, you know, very little tweaks here and there as the shows went on. The stories were always powerful. The stories really resonate to everyday life, a lot of social issues that I think people will enjoy. And if you're not a Star Trek fan and you happen to be on here watching this right now and you're kind of just watching it because, you know, you're just curious or something, you know, take some time and really give it a chance and really listen to the stories. Watch the acting, watch the writing. You know, there's a page right now called 50 Star Trek Quotes, and I'll read them every once in a while because I put them up on our page and stuff. And sometimes I read these things and I'm like, man, that is like so freaking profound. I'm like, this was written in the 60s, you know, and it was just something that you can put out today and it would totally identify with a lot of what's going on. So there you have it. That is our first episode. Well, actually our first episode with Kirk.
Yes.
And Spock and Scotty and Sulu, small roles, but they were there. And just the beginning of something that we're really passionate about and really enjoy. And we're happy to bring it to all of you. Really appreciate everybody out there tuning in. George, you want to give us some we were going to do it earlier, but I was like, yeah, let's keep talking.
But John just kept talking, you know.
Yeah, that's how I roll.
So yes, trivia question. So again, We'll go over the trivia quick.
Does
Trivia
anybody
quick.
know? I don't
What?
think anybody knows. Nobody
Oh,
Googled.
anybody get it? No. So Mark Leonard, who was the actor who played Spock's father, Sarek, in the Star Trek universe, because I say universe because it was multiple areas that he played in, played two other characters in Star Trek.
Now I want to guess one.
I know you probably have one.
I think I have one because I feel like he played a Romulan. At one.
Correct.
Okay.
In the episode called Balance of Terror,
Okay.
he played the Romulan commander that was actually
That's
in
right.
the battle with the Enterprise.
Okay.
The second one was actually one that I never knew. And I don't think a lot of people would have never got. And when I found out, I was shocked.
Mud.
Mud?
Mud. Harry
No.
Mud.
He actually played, if everybody remembers Star Trek, the motion picture, in the beginning scene where the Klingons were coming to fight V'ger, he was the Captain Klingon in that Klingon ship.
You serious?
I am serious. He played the Captain Klingon who says, "Bach! Fire!"
Yeah,
That was Mark Leonard. He played those two characters in Star Trek. So that one again was one that blew me away. I had no clue.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't tell because he's got all the makeup on, but yeah, that's why it was a little bit of a trick question. But
yeah.
So those are the two extra characters he played in Star Trek.
Awesome. Cool. Awesome. Well, folks, thank you very much for tuning in. Appreciate y'all's. This has been a lot of fun. We're really gearing up to do a lot more stuff, even between the weeks, between the shows. From Tuesday to Tuesday, visit our page, Counterparts podcast.com, and you'll be able to get some more content there. We're also going to be doing some more videos. We also have an Instagram page right now, which is just Counterparts Podcast on Instagram. Check us out there. And we're going to be doing some lives on Counterparts on the Instagram page. And we're going to be doing some more lives on other places. Until the show comes in, we're going to kind of give little just some more content and some more love out there. So want to thank everybody for tuning in. George?
I enjoyed it. I loved it. Again, guys, tune in and let's have some more fun as we go.
Appreciate it. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see y'all next week. Take care of yourselves. Peace.
Peace.